Hey, happy console gamer! Pixel Blips here in different digs. There's been an unforeseen incident, but this is my office. But we
Kind of looks like his office, actually.
a little bit.
Your office.
Well, there's a book,
Bookcase with a bunch of
bookcase
stuff behind it
behind,
and
some
a whole bunch of video
boxes.
game stuff.
comics. Anyway, we're here
Okay,
because we're
Sonic.
talking about game controllers. You asked us what our favorite game controller is. Here's our response. Dave,
Well, first up, my favorite console controller, because I'm going to cheat. I'm going to have
he's a
PC.
PC gamer.
I play PCs too. Is the original Super Nintendo controller. A lot of I feel as though the original Super Nintendo controller is one of the controllers that kind of led to the design of a lot of what we have now, with the 4 buttons in a cross formation, the D-pads being where they are, the start and select buttons, and then having shoulder buttons, which we all use for playing Call of Duty or whatever to aim and then shoot, aim and then shoot.
Yep.
Things like that. Like the Super Nintendo controller was super comfortable when I was a lot younger. Now that my hands are bigger, it's not so much. But back in the day, using the Super NES controller was just yeah, I would play hours. My hands would never get tired. It was just the controller that I loved to use. So Andy, what is your first favorite controller? Because you have two as well.
I have a few, but
Well,
I do want to shout out. You said you love the DualShock. I love the DualShock. I mean, this is probably why I buy PlayStation platforms as much as I do. Is it just feels great and it feels comfortable, and this is what I've been holding for 10 years, and I actually got this one at a sale. I haven't really used it, and man, these analog sticks are snappy. But really, like for me, game playing, you have this in your hand. If I'm gaming at home, whether it be the 6-axis with the motion or the rumble,
you're still gonna go. You're gonna tweak it right and left
Yeah.
when you're racing or fighting or
the
whatever.
sticks are just great, and this D-pad has always been one of my favorites until I picked up a Sega Saturn a few weeks ago and figured out that this baby's D-pad
It's amazing.
is just it's the greatest.
It's almost
thing.
like it's like a D-pad and an analog stick rolled into one.
Yeah, it is just manna from heaven. This is the most comfortable thing I've ever used. I really like
The
how
buttons,
this
the
one,
shoulder buttons have a nice little clicky sound to
yeah,
them, right?
They've micro switch buttons just like the Neo Geo sticks were.
Yep.
Very fun, very nice, and it fits really well in my hand. I feel like I'm ready to game with it, and it fits snugly and nicely, and I really like it. So I would say, even though the DualShock is probably a personal preference that I really love, I would say this one should probably deserve to be a better.
Higher up
controller.
on your list of awesome game controllers.
Yeah, if someone said objectively rank these, I would say Sega Saturn's pretty damn high.
Yeah.
But the one that follows this is actually better than Sega Saturn. But Dave, what's your second controller?
My second one is actually a PC peripheral. It's actually
In your peripherals.
yes. It is a. It was originally made exclusively by Belkin. I know it's hard to see because of the glare, but
Just push it forward.
yeah, it is the. Now it's called the Razer Nostromo. It is almost essentially a quarter of a keyboard plus a D-pad on the side, and it makes a decent transition for people who are used to playing console games. I've had people say, I used to play Call of Duty. I can't play with a mouse and keyboard. I'm like, well then, why don't you try this out? It's not quite an analog stick. It's like a D-pad. You can use that to control your guy, but you also then can have all your weapon swaps. It's great for playing like MMOs. I use it to play Diablo and Torchlight on my PC. It's made it so that I cannot play certain types of games without it. I cannot play an MMO without using this because you can program all the hotkeys to do whatever you want. You can even set them up to be like, okay, I want you to use this one, and this one in this order. It's kind of cheating to do that, and I try not to. But it's I don't know. It's one of those things that I bought a few years ago, thinking, all right, I need to find a better way to play because I was big into WoW when it first came out, and I picked up one of these in like 2010, 2008. And it's one of those things that's changed the way that I play PC games. I still go back to my keyboard and mouse for playing shooters and strategy games because that's how I learned to play those games.
Yeah.
And that's how I became most efficient at playing those games.
Well, you know what they say. Once you go Nostromo, you don't gamepad no more.
No, I still use my 360 controller on my PC to play games like was Darksiders 2. I played almost exclusively with my my 360 controller because there's no way in hell I could play a platformer without having my analog stick and my jump button and all that stuff. So, but yeah, so the Razer Nostromo is my second favorite controller.
Okay, well here's my number one, and
This
when
thing is
people,
weird as shit.
yeah, when people ask me about like you play a lot of games, what's your most favorite controller? Which I've actually gotten that question a few times.
Mhm.
I always tell them this one pad, and they're like, "What? I've never heard of that. I didn't know Capcom made gaming peripherals."
Well, they do make fight sticks, but
The Capcom Soldier Pad. I got this when I was first playing Sega Genesis back in the day.
The day.
Very weird there. Look at that.
it is very odd.
Odd grips, very shaped very oddly, and it just fits so well in your hand. Thumb goes right there on the pad.
And it's
Perfect for doing Hadoukens. 6 buttons. Your hands actually, your wrists don't sit in the same spot, so it kind of feels like you're over twerking this one. It's really comfortable, especially when it's in your lap. And I have never ever seen another one of these in real life. I've seen a couple of them on eBay. If you have one, I highly recommend you use it. It's the best way to play fighting games with
on your
a
Genesis.
freaking D-pad on your Genesis. There's also one for the SNES. I love it.
I think I tried to use that once, and I was like, "This is crazy."
Yeah.
And you still wipe the floor with me because you're better at me in Street Fighter, but
I mean, it's just great. And because once again, you can even see, like, as I'm holding it, my wrists aren't aligned correctly. It just feels good. Like,
but
this
it's almost
arm's a
like
bit more up.
like having a joystick, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's almost up like it almost feels like you're on. And I've seen people play it like they'll put it on a table and they'll play it like this, like they're playing at the actual arcade.
Yeah.
It's just so good, so great.
And that might have been how part of the design philosophy behind it was you hold it and you're still doing like this, like your right hand is or your left hand is vertical and your other hand is horizontal, so you're playing it like a
like I can't really show you with the camera, but like from this angle, like you can definitely tell like this wrist is bent
Slightly,
way more than this
yes.
wrist.
And it's a really weird looking controller, but I can
And
totally
it's just
see how
super
you
comfortable. And it
once
just,
you
there's
got
a
good
gun,
with it, you could be very.
There's just a
very
gun grip, and it's just
Yeah.
you don't gotta worry about where your other fingers are. It's just so good.
Yeah.
I highly recommend you pick one up. The Capcom Soldier Pad. For a Capcom fan like you and Rob, I'm kind of surprised you guys don't have one of these yet.
If they do, they may have one. Or
Say
two.
hi. See you guys later.